good 5-cent cigar? This country has always needed a good cigar, and Americans at work have made it. In his daily work for generations, the cigar maker has played a big part in shaping the destiny of our nation. Tobacco has been called the bachelor's friend, the hungry man's food, the sad man's cordial, the wakeful man's sleep, and the chilly man's fire. The discovery of tobacco was as momentous as the discovery of the New World itself. This bewitching vegetable is a true native of American soil. Stimulating the romance between John Smith and Pocahontas, creating one of the most familiar symbols of trade, sparking the Revolution, the war between the states, and the Louisiana Purchase. As machines came, the cigar makers did away with tenement house factories. Obliterated Tobacco Road. It was a cigar maker who founded the American Federation of Labor, pioneering the shorter work week and the improvement of working conditions. The making of a cigar begins with the shaker. He unbales and loosens the cured tobacco leaves. Each leaf of this bouquet will be selected for a special purpose: filler, binder, or wrapper, depending upon its texture and quality. Moisture must be restored according to the use of the leaf in the cigar. The leaves have become brittle. Dampness will make them workable, give them a skin-like flexibility, while they are being made, in fact, into the skin of the cigar. This is the most carefully controlled of climates. The leaves are sorted into 3 kinds, some for filler that makes up the body of the cigar, some for binders that hold the filler together. Those with the best color, smoothness, elasticity, and toughness saved for the outside casing. Half of each binder leaf will be spiraled clockwise, half counterclockwise, depending upon which side the strips are cut from. Like most other products, tobacco has lent itself to machine processing, but it still requires extensive human supervision. For certain grades and brands, the hard central rib of the leaf is removed by hand. Selectors sort and grade wrapper leaves according to right and left halves, sizes, and colors. Most of the stems are removed in the stripping department, where the leaves are fed through machines in batches of 50. The eye of the worker is all important in making sure that no sticks or other foreign matter will be in the final product to interfere with the smoker's pleasure. Tobacco has been called everything from the filthy weed to one of man's most satisfying possessions. Yet it endures as a fact of tremendous economic significance. In many colonies of the New World, it was legal tender for payment of wages, debts, and taxes. And in the most recent wars, it has been used as a medium of exchange. In many plants, hand rolling of cigars is a highly developed art, practiced by both men and women workers. Some connoisseurs claim there is no substitute for human fingers in feeling just how tightly the tobacco should be packed. In the old days, a reader's voice would have intoned the news or passages of literature over such a scene. But the practice has been discontinued as impractical under conditions of modern production. Old-timers miss the custom. Although cigar making by hand has changed little in 100 years, working conditions have been greatly improved. Whole families no longer work 14 to 18 hours a day. Children have been freed for happier pursuits. Mothers no longer rock their babies at the workbench. These are important changes in a craft where more than half of the workers are women, wielding the tools of their trade with a sureness of touch second to no man's. When the wrapper leaf has been trimmed, it is ready to be rolled onto the filler with its binder. With a few deft motions of her nimble fingers, the roller seals the end to finish up the cigar. Soon it will be making its contribution to the greater enjoyment of living. Will it find its way to a banquet, to the smoke-filled back room of a convention, to a celebration on the birth of a baby, or simply to an individual smoker who regards it as one of the finer things of life? It is curious now to recall that the first man to smoke publicly in Europe was jailed for being possessed by the devil. This case had little effect, for today tobacco is formed into plugs, ropes or pellets, chewed and sniffed, smoked in cigarettes, cigars and pipes the world over. The shapes and sizes of cigars change from year to year, even though many smokers stick to one favorite for a lifetime. Dimensions greatly affect smoking characteristics. Each shape has its own blend and its own proportion of various leaf types. Extra large or long types must be made by hand because they do not fit machines. Some are so exclusive, they are given the name of the person for whom they are especially designed. Most cigars are made by machine or by a combination of hand and machine methods. The worker begins putting together the cigar by laying out the filler leaves in a moving trough. The longer the leaf, the longer the ash, a quality desired by many fanciers. The moistened large wrapper leaf is placed over a suction device of the cigar-making machine, which cuts and trims it to size in one stroke. The leaf used in each part of the cigar must contain just so much moisture at each stage. Machine or no machine, tobacco is temperamental and will not behave as it should unless catered to. This is true throughout its cycle from planting to packaging. Since there is no way to feed cigar tobacco in one continuous tube, each cigar must be handled individually through the machine, from the leaf for the filler, the leaf for the binder, and the leaf for the wrapper. The worker can turn out 8 to 12 cigars a minute in this way. The Cigar Makers Union is nearly 100 years old. Their viewpoint on mechanization is interesting because of this, and because it was expressed by Samuel Gompers, a cigar roller before he became the first president of the American Federation of Labor. He said, "You know that the first fight that workmen made against machinery was based upon the idea that machinery was going to destroy their trade. The Egyptians protested against a pipeline to carry water into their cities because it took away from the water carriers' jobs. We must pursue a course that shall give every man and woman an opportunity of becoming a member of our organization. Cigar makers have learned to work with machines of increasing complexity and intricacy. This one puts a hole in the sealed end and gives a final trimming to the cut end simultaneously. Frequent samplings are taken to check the cigars by weight. Human intelligence is needed to make sure the machines are delivering the proper quality and quantity of product. The completed cigars come out of the finishing machine, are inspected and checked for thickness. A 5-cent cigar is no longer possible, but the average cigar is a good 10-cent one, made by men and women whose work has been closely bound up with the most significant periods of American history. A matter of extreme importance to cigar smokers, whether connoisseurs or creatures of habit, is color. So all cigars, both hand and machine made, are graded by shade, also by similarity of vein structure in the wrapper leaf. Some cigars are given preferential treatment by hand. The cigar is attended by ritual from the growing of the tobacco leaf to the final selection by the smoker. Perfection is the standard. Inspection becomes an automatic habit with every worker as the cigar passes through his or her hands to the final boxing. It takes 4 days to sort by color, to band, wrap, pack, and label each box. It is 4 years from seedbed to smoker. Fine cigars will always be made by hand, but 6 billion must reach the cigar counter each year. Cigar makers use the machine to help fill this order, for they know a machine is just a larger pair of hands. Either way, they live up to the proud statement on their original label, which read, "This certifies that the cigars herein have been made by a first-class workman, a member of the Cigar Makers International Union of America, an organization devoted to the moral, material, and intellectual welfare of the craft. Members of this union of the Afl-Cio know the makings of good tobacco products. They contribute to the makings of a nation." Americans at work for you. Americans at Work, presented as a public service by the Afl-Cio. Next week, another interesting story of Americans at work. Americans whose skill and effort help keep our country great and strong.